Hari Om. This session is a reading from this book, beautiful book, At Every Breath a Teaching, Stories about the Life and Teachings of Swami Chinmayananda. So Puja Gurudev's life is so full of messages for us, especially if we call ourselves spiritual seekers or sadhakas. And there are so many people who had such varied experiences with Gurudev, maybe being right next to him, or maybe who never met him but still felt him, or whose words were so they had such a deep impact on them that it changed their life forever, or it enhanced their spiritual journey and hastened it, although slowly, as in Gurudev's own words. So, it gives me immense joy when I read every single episode that's recorded in this book. And it's really a wonderful compilation because, on one hand, they are stories. So, they're so, we always love to know what happened in somebody's life, isn't it? And what to say about a devotee's experience with his or her master. So, even when a devotee recalls an experience, it is so full of that moment when that experience actually happened because they're actually reliving it. And as I read various episodes in this book, it becomes so difficult to pick out one and say, wow, because each one has a wow in it. Anyway, for this time's Aradhana Day, Gurudev's Aradhana Day, which falls on August 3rd of every year, I have picked up this particular episode. For some reason, I felt maybe this was a good one. So here it is. It is under the section God and God's Worship. And the title of this episode that's been given is Sin, Hell and Heaven. So one is always curious when they hear the words like hell and heaven. Is it really there, or are these just different states in one's life, or what is it? Are they states of experience? So always, whether you are really on the spiritual path or not, these are common questions that arise in one's mind. And let us see what experience this devotee had with Gurudev, and what does it have to do with sin, heaven and hell. Okay, so here it goes from the book. Sin, hell and heaven. I am a sinner, Swamiji. You alone can save me. Save me, please. The visitor had come to a satsang with Gurudev and had run forward to fall at the feet of the master. Tears streamed down his cheeks. He was clad in an expensive dhoti and kurta, and diamond rings gleamed from his fingers. He was evidently a well-to-do businessman, but his face was careworn, and his eyes were sunk deep in sorrow and misery. I am a sinner, Swami Chinmayananda, he repeated. I have committed every kind of sin. Is there no redemption for me? Will I have to go to hell? Gurudev bent down graciously and lifted the man up. Cheer up, Sitaram. Sit down. No one is beyond redemption. I promise you will not go to hell. You don't have to. Sitaram, reassured, slowly squatted on the floor and looked up at his guru's benign, smiling face. You will not go to hell, my son, Gurudev repeated, emphasizing the word go. You are already there. You don't have to suffer any more punishment in hell because your sins are punishing you even now. Stroking his beard, Gurudev continued, Sitaram, you have also to understand that man is not punished for his sins. Remember this. The whole thing is subjective. God does not have to punish you. The pangs of suffering following a sinful act are enough punishment. Man is punished by his sins. That state of suffering, in religious parlance, is called hell. That is why you don't have to go to hell. You are already there. Then, what are hell and heaven, Swamiji? Why do people talk of going to heaven after death? Asked someone else in the room. Gurudev replied, don't you speak of going to sleep after getting to bed? Where do you go? Do you have to take a flight to some other place while going to sleep? This is the limitation of language. The going is not from one place to another, but from one state to another. While sleeping, one goes from the state of waking to the state of sleeping, but in the same place. Similarly, heaven and hell are two states. The first, peaceful and serene and blissful. The other, miserable, sorrowful and painful. Both states are subjective and are experienced while one is living, not after death. Heaven is not a post-mortem reward, nor is hell a post-mortem punishment. Both are immediate, here and now. Sitaram, eyes closed, had been listening attentively. He now opened his eyes, still eager to get a specific answer to his own specific problem. He asked, then what should I do now, Swamiji? With a teasing smile, Gurudev replied, continue doing whatever you have been doing. To Sitaram's discomfiture, the entire room full of people burst out laughing. Gurudev bent down to pat Sitaram comfortingly. Don't worry, I shall explain myself. Suppose you're travelling by car to Pune and you suddenly find that you have missed the fork at Thane and are actually speeding along the wrong road towards Nasik. What will you do? You are rushing at 70 miles per hour. If, on realizing your mistake, you rashly jam on your brakes, the car will smash into the roadside ditch. You will be destroyed. Hence, the right thing to do is to bring the car gently to a stop, turn it around and retrace the road. But note, you are still on the wrong road until you reach the junction with the right road, onto which you turn and drive towards your destination. In the same way, all these years you have been following the wrong road in life, acquiring, hoarding, aggrandizing, all sins as you say. You have been doing these things because those particular vasanas have been strong in you. If you change your way of life all of a sudden, your actions will pull you in one direction and your tendencies will pull you in another. The resulting suppression and repression will probably land you in a lunatic asylum as a mental wreck. The tendencies are powerful. You should therefore continue your normal way of life, but at the same time, make efforts to acquire good and noble values in life, which will form new tendencies and ultimately turn all your actions in the right direction. There is no use in just giving up your present way of life without acquiring positive virtues and values. That will merely be hypocrisy. Think. In many lectures, Swamiji repeated the same truth. Heaven and hell are states of mind. Liberation from these relative states means abidance in the supreme reality, the one consciousness that pervades all. In truth, he said, in response to a devotee's question, there is no evolution of man. Instead, he explained further, quote unquote Gurudev, there is only consciousness, ever remaining luminous, or from time to time dimming itself in the endless changing states. Liberation is not a total obliteration of the individuality and its universe, but it is a state of abiding in the reality, the self or pure consciousness. The state once reached from which nobody ever returns. And it is in that state that our beloved Puji Gurudev always abide in. And which is probably why he was given such an apt name, Chinmaya, Chinmayananda. Chinmaya, pure consciousness. Ananda, bliss. What a combination. Of course, they are not even separable. And for us, yes, Swami Chinmayananda is Chinmaya, ever reminding us that we too are Chinmaya. We too are nothing but that pure consciousness in which there is neither hell nor heaven. A state beyond states, if you want to say. But silence is all that prevails, and Gurudev has promised us that we shall meet in silence. With humble prostrations at the feet of Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda on this Aradhana Day. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Thank you for listening. Hari Om.